All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our Lunch and Learn with Mass Humanities. We're very excited to partner on this webinar to learn more about museums on Main Street. I'm excited to be joined by NEMA Executive Director Kayla G. Coleman and Mass Humanities Representative Marie Pellissier. With that, I will turn it over to you, Marie.
Thank you so much, Scarlett and Kayla. We really appreciate, getting to collaborate with NEMA to bring this opportunity out to as many folks as we can reach. So Mass Humanities is really excited that we're going to be bringing Museum on Main Street back to Massachusetts in 2025, 2026. My name is Marie Pellissier. As Scarlett said, I am a program officer at Mass Humanities, and I am the point person for the Museum on Main Street program. So if you've got any questions, I'm your gal. Today, I've also got with me Katie Montgomery and Maureen Gillis, both of whom hosted Museum on Main Street the last time it came through. They hosted the Crossroads exhibit, and so once I'm done with my little spiel, they're going to tell you about how their experience with the exhibit was, so that you can ask them any questions about what it's like to actually host the exhibit and actually, have it at your institution. Just a little bit of background. Museum on Main Street is a collaboration between the Smithsonian Institution's Traveling Exhibit Service, or SITES, the State Humanities Councils, and local host sites across the state. SITES has reached over 1,900 rural communities with Museum on Main Street since 1994, so it's 30 years old this year. Happy birthday, moms. You'll hear us referring to it as MOMS. That's the acronym. You'll see that a lot. There are currently 4 MOMS exhibitions traveling the country, and they stop in each state for approximately 9-ish months. They stop at 6 sites for 6 weeks per site, and then there's a week in between each site for travel and setup. And so what we found is that these work really well in a variety of venues. They work really well in libraries, historical societies, museums, civic centers, and community colleges have also been really successful hosting Museum on Main Street. And so in Massachusetts, like I said, in 2022, 2023, we hosted the exhibit called Crossroads, Change in Rural America. And so that was it was in Turner's Falls, it was in Rutland, it was in Essex at the Shipbuilding Museum, which KD will tell us about. It was in Hull at the Lifesaving Museum, and Maureen can speak to that. There was also in Athol and Sheffield. And so some of the pictures that are on the side of the slide here are from MOMS. I think the top one's Rutland. And I'm pretty sure the middle one is Turner's Falls, and the bottom one I think is Rutland again. Rutland put together this really fabulous scavenger hunt for the kiddos and sent us some great pictures. So in 2025, 2026, we're hosting Voices and Votes, Democracy in America. That's what's coming next time around. And so we are soliciting applications for host sites for Voices and Votes. And if you decide to apply, what you're applying for is not just to host the exhibit, but also for a $10,000 grant to cover programming and other costs. Mass Humanities is also going to provide capacity building workshops in the months leading up to the exhibit's arrival. And so this will include workshops really tailored to the needs of the 6 host sites. It might include audience building, program planning, social media and communication strategies. It's also going to include discussion facilitation training with an outside consultant group called Essential Partners, who are just fantastic. So Voices and Votes is based on an exhibit called American Democracy, A Great Leap of Faith at the National Museum of American History in DC. And it explores these really sort of big questions about what it means to be an American. What are the freedoms and responsibilities of citizens? Who has the right to vote? How do you participate as a citizen? And how do we encourage more people to participate in our democracy? And so in order to apply to be a host site, you need to submit a letter of inquiry, and those are due May 10th. So just coming up here in about 2 weeks. Now, these are letters of inquiry. They're not full applications. So it's a much lighter lift organizationally than a full application would be. We're going to ask you to confirm your eligibility. So in this case, you need to be either a 501c3 organization, municipal government agency, educational institution, or tribal organization, and you need to be located in and serving a town of 12,000 people or fewer. We're going to also ask you to rank the dates that you'd like to host the tour, and to confirm that you meet the physical requirements. The tour is about 700 square feet. And so you're going to need a space that's big enough to hold the actual exhibit, that has 8-foot ceilings to get it all in the door. there's a couple of other physical requirements that are outlined on that letter of inquiry. And then the last thing we're going to ask of you is an outline of things that you might be thinking about in terms of your public programming. Mass Humanities requires that you have 6 public programs in the time period when the exhibit is in town. Now, there's a little bit of flexibility on the front end and a little bit of flexibility on the back end. So you don't necessarily have to host 6 public programs in 6 weeks. We know that's a lot. And so we'd like to see an outline of what you might be thinking about, knowing that this is not set in stone, right? We just want to see what your ideas are. We're also going to ask you to name, if you've got any partners in your community that you're already thinking about, we'll ask you to name those folks as well. But again, it's flexible. Part of the capacity building process, if you are selected, will be to complete your full formal application, including your budget and stuff. And part of the capacity building process is working together with me and with the other program officers at Mass Humanities to get that final application, programming schedule, and budget all nailed down. So that's my spiel. I will hand it over to KD and Maureen, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I am happy to answer any and all questions about Museum on Main Street, about the logistics of applying. And as one final reminder, those LOIs are due on May 10th. So thank you all so much. And I'm going to hand it over to, I guess Maureen's already unmuted, but so I'll hand it over to Maureen.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for having me today. Maureen Gillis from Hull Lifesaving Museum. And I'm going to just give you a little background to the museum in case you're not familiar with us. We are a small museum, but we're much more than a museum. We were founded in 1978. We are definitely an essential part of the community for over 46 years. We teach crucial lessons from maritime heritage, but also life-changing and life-saving developmental experiences. Our mission celebrates the life-saving spirit of courage, caring, and the relevance of history to individual daily lives. The museum challenges the participants to draw the best from them and use our experiential learning with our youth. We also have veterans programs, and the museum is focused on social justice and inclusion. And we're open year-round. Having the Smithsonian traveling exhibit coming to Hull was just amazing. I began, I think, it was a month after we received the notice that we got the grant from Mass Humanities. So when I first started, I did not have any experience at all. And they said, oh, by the way, the Smithsonian's coming to Hull. So for me, it was okay. It doesn't, it's, baptism by fire. So I was a little nervous. The impact that the Smithsonian had on us coming to a small town, and for somebody that hasn't had that much experience with something as exciting as this, we did increase our visibility and recognition. It not only brought local, however, national attention to us. So we were really excited to have an exhibit of this magnitude. So the other thing, it enhanced our educational opportunities. Having the exhibit brought a wealth of educational content. However, the museum could build on this content, which was very exciting to be able to tell our stories. So we had the exhibit itself, but then we were able to tell health stories in the community. And that was wonderful. It gave us opportunities to have more school kids and seniors come. And it was something that multi-generations could experience. The cultural enrichment, the exhibit introduced diverse cultural perspectives. and stories that the local community might not have had conversations about. And that was really cool to hear, to go through the exhibit and have the community there, and you hear all these different sidebars of conversations that you wouldn't think would be happening. So that was really great, that it promoted discussions that we might not have had at the museum, and community engagement. By having the Association of the Smithsonian and Mass Humanities encourage local businesses and organizations to collaborate with us. I guess it gave us some street cred that we might not have had before. So that was really exciting to be associated with Mass Humanities and the Smithsonian. The economic benefits, it increased our visitation, our foot traffic, but it also not only was beneficial, economically beneficial to us because we had more visitation and perhaps more sponsorship, but it was something that really made Hull a destination to come to. So that was exciting, to be able to have all these different people come that would never have come to the museum because of having this exhibit. Professional development, for me personally, not having the experience of having just being thrown into this, what I noticed, it was clear right from the start that Mass Humanities was there every step of the way for us, and they wanted us to be successful. They invested time, they invested, as Marie was saying, we had some really great workshops that, you know, coming from a corporate where I worked previously, you would have these little skill-based workshops and you'd go to it kicking and screaming. So of course I came to this one kicking and screaming, but what I learned was amazing, and it would really set me up to be successful. And Mass Humanities was there again every step of the way. If we had questions, everybody was approachable. We learned, we got to know everybody, which was amazing. You know, everybody that was hosting.
Society in Essex, Mass. And so we were fortunate to be one of the mom's hosts. We actually were the first, and we handed it off to Maureen and Hull, which was my first time at the Hull Lifesaving Museum, which is shameful because I am another nautical nonprofit. Oh, it looks like Maureen's back. So why don't we let her continue? And then I can jump in.
Sorry about that. Welcome to Hull. Our internet's not that great. I guess, but getting to know everybody has been wonderful. The classes that we had on social media, budgeting, these are things that I didn't, I needed help with. And again, Mass Humanities was there every step of the way. We had a meeting on accessibility in terms of both physical and space. And it was funny because we're a little museum, but it was great because Jess from Mass Humanities came, and then Selwyn from Smithsonian both came separately. And they were like, yeah, you got this. If you just move this, if you just move that, you can make it. So they really worked with us to be successful. One part that I really enjoyed was when we went up to KD's and we had a lesson. We actually all helped try to install the exhibit, and that was a lot of fun because you got to know everybody, but then you got this comfort level of installing the exhibit. We had 6 lectures, and that was really great. Because we had limited space, we tried to really think outside the box. We did a couple walking tours, and we used the hotel in Hull. So that was good. Our panel discussions were great. We formed partnerships or expanded on our partnerships with Hull Pride, No Place for Hate, Jews of Nantasket Beach. And so that was really great. And we were fortunate enough the following year to apply for a second year grant. And we applied, we received it, but we were really able to build on what we learned in this first one and the partnership. So last year we had Diversity Stays Strong was what we focused on. And in it, we focused specifically on women on the marine industry, past, present, future. So we're grateful for the relationship that we have with Mass Humanities, and the traveling exhibit. It's going to be transformative. It's going to offer numerous benefits that contribute to the growth, sustainability, and the relevance of our landscape. So thank you so much for choosing us, and I will hand it over to Katie.
Thank you so much, Maureen.
Hi. Well, like I said before, thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Marie and Mass Humanities. We've had a really great time being part of all of this. So I run the Essex Historical Society and Shipbuilding Museum, and we are likewise to Hull a very small, focused nonprofit museum on the North Shore of Massachusetts. We have a unique definition of rural here in Essex because we are surrounded by cities. We're like a rural holdout on the North Shore of Massachusetts. So we had a lot of fun really exploring those definitions and playing with the themes of the exhibit. But really to impart probably the some knowledge of the questions you might end up having. We didn't have the physical space actually on our site to hold the exhibit. So we collaborated with the town and we held the physical exhibit was held at Town Hall, which was really a nice, healthy way to make it more of a community effort and get everybody involved. We went completely overboard on our programming. We held a whole lot of programs, more than the 6 required, because we had this overwhelming amount of support from the community and people who wanted to collaborate. Working to coordinate all of that was a lot, but it was totally worth it. And a lot of those collaborations have sustained now into the future. We work with these organizations, art organizations, and the library, and there's different oral history projects and things that have continued since this program, which has been really wonderful for us. And probably one of the most remarkable takeaways we got from it was we had one of the required programming was a community conversation. And that was the method was taught by Essential Partners through one of the Mass Humanities trainings. And really those served as these focus groups to get out of the community like what they want to see. And it's really helped to steer us as a small community organization into the future. We've added a lot of environmental programming that we didn't have before. We always had a little bit, but we've really dove in and gotten very involved in the in that aspect of our mission because the community actually asked for it through those conversations, which was really it was really fun to see people engage like that. So I guess if you're on the fence about applying, I probably would apply again if I hadn't already just done it. And I know that Mass Humanities and the Smithsonian are trying to reach more communities. So they probably wouldn't pick me a second time. We did get the second year grant, and we're actually we were saving it for a talk series in the fall and winter this year because it's too beautiful outside to have people listening to us talk in a room at this point in time. But we're playing off of those same themes and values that we learned through the process. And I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions, but I don't need to go on and on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. I think, Scarlett, it looks like we've got a little bit of time. Do we have time to take some questions if folks have any?
Yeah.
All right. Now is the time. If you all have, if anybody's got questions about, the application process, I'm your gal. If you've got questions about the experience, Maureen and KD can tell you more.
Hi, this is Mary Childs from Sandwich Glass Museum. Can you tell me a little bit more about the specifics of the exhibition?
Specifics in what way? In terms of the content or in terms of the sort of size and layout?
Content, please.
Sure. So the exhibition is organized along a couple of main themes, instead of being organized chronologically. And so it starts with an overview of sort of the founding era, a little bit about the American Revolution, the writing of the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And then it goes through sort of 5 different kind of thematic areas that you don't necessarily have to go through in order, that explore, how do people raise their voices? And so it's really looking at, one of the sections is all about protest, looking at all the different ways that people have chosen to protest and raise their voices in the public sphere. Another section is about petitioning and our right to petition the government and what that looks like. Talks about petitioning with your feet. There's some really phenomenal visuals with lots of different protest signs, especially from the 20th century. And then the other sections of the exhibit really explore voting and what it means to vote and who has had the right to vote in the past, how that right to vote has expanded and contracted over time. And also it looks at the technology of voting, like how voting machines have changed and evolved. Sort of the very sort of physical experience of how do we actually vote, right? Once upon a time, you dropped a colored rock into a box, and then the sort of evolution of the secret ballot and that the kind of technical side of how we vote. And it also looks at how we know and decide who to vote for, and the evolution of sort of political campaigning and campaign buttons and other sort of paraphernalia, for lack of a better way to describe it. And it is I just want to be clear, like, this is not an exhibit about politics, right? This is an exhibit about citizenship, about voting, about raising your voice in the public sphere. And it is, I had a chance to meet the curators who curated the big exhibit at the Smithsonian in February, and they were talking about how carefully they worked to make sure that this is a nonpartisan exhibit, right? There's nothing partisan about it. Even down to, like, if there's campaign buttons, the campaign buttons that are on display are exactly evenly split, between parties and between candidates and across time periods even. There are some, nobody's voting for the Whigs anymore, but like they're still represented, they're still there. And so it is a very consciously nonpartisan exhibit. If anything, the biggest takeaway from this exhibit is democracy is good. How are you going to participate? And so it walks folks through that. And then at the end, it gives people an opportunity. There's a little kiosk where you get the opportunity to almost talk back to the Smithsonian and share your story and share how you want to participate, or what you think about some of the issues that they've raised and the questions that they've brought up. Does that answer your question, Mary?
It does, thank you. And what were the size specifications? I know that there was a ceiling height.
Yep. So you're going to need a ceiling height of about 8 feet. And you're going to need the exhibit itself takes up about 700 square feet. And so something to know, as I'm sure, Katie and Maureen can both speak to, is like this exhibit works really well in spaces that fit it. It doesn't, work as well in like a really large space. So like a high school gym would not actually be a very good space to put this exhibit, because the exhibit would feel too small, right? It would be sort of overwhelmed by the bigger space. So 700 square feet, a little bit more than that, great. But not too much more than that. You know, it really is designed for small institutions, and should fit just fine into about 700 square feet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I can also I'll drop a link into the chat where you can find the application guidelines, and those have all of those details are written down there for you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Hi, I have a question as well. My name is Amy Johnson, and I'm from the Nye Museum, also in Sandwich. So hi, Mary. I had a question regarding the definition of rural. Our museum is located in East Sandwich, which has a smaller population than the town of Sandwich. So I was just wondering I guess, requirements in that regard.
Yeah, so we're looking for community. You need to be in a community of less than 12,000 people. Is East Sandwich, are you like a separate like census designated place?
I am not sure.
Okay. What I would say is I'm not super familiar with Sandwich. So if East Sandwich is considered a separate community from from Sandwich, then I would suggest, on the letter of inquiry, there's a space. We're going to ask you to pick from a drop-down menu of all of the towns that are all the towns that on the census had less than 12,000 people, but there is a space where if your town is not represented on that list and you still feel like you fit those requirements, there's a space where you can leave us a note and say, you know what, my East Sandwich is separate from the city of Sandwich, but it's not on your list because the census is weird. Here's our population. Here's why I think we fit, why I think we are, a rural place that, that fits the qualifications. So I would suggest applying and then adding that little bit of explanation.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. And there's that link to the grant guidelines. I just dropped those in the chat. Well, unless Amy or Mary, you guys have any other questions, it looks like we're coming up on 12:30, and I don't want to keep anybody from their picnic lunches on such a beautiful day.
Well, thank you, Marie and Katie and Maureen. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to contact us here at NEMA or contact Marie directly. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank
Bye,
you so
thanks for
much,
having us.
everybody. Thanks again, Scarlett.
Thank
Yeah.
you.